everybody, my name is Ariel Kroplin, and today I want to talk to you about my grandfather, who's actually sitting in the front row. And his name is Richard Marsh, and he is a World War II veteran. And here are actually some of his medals that he received from being a veteran. Here they are. And he had just turned 18 when he decided to join the Army, and he's now 86. And I'm so proud that my grandfather is one of the men that fought for our country. And there's no greater honor than protecting our country from danger. And he was part of the tank battalion. A tank battalion is actually the smallest unit of a military that can operate independently. And he was in the Army for about 3 years. He remembered when the attack on Pearl Harbor happened. He was in Elmira, New York at a movie theater watching a movie called Wagon Wheels. And he joined the Army because he knew that if he didn't, he would probably eventually be drafted anyways. And right before he was shipped to basic training, he proposed to my grandma. And she, of course, told him yes. And then she didn't see him again for 3 years. And then he was shipped off to basic training, and that was in Fort Meade, Maryland. And they had to learn some basic medical precautions like how to make a tourniquet. And that's when you wrap the area above a wound to prevent further bleeding. And he had to learn how to shoot stuff. And the gun that he used was a M1 assault rifle, and they used it on there was a little car that drove past the track, and they would have to shoot at that. And after he completed basic training, he had to go to Fort Knox in Kentucky, and he underwent a more specialized training where he got to learn how to do the tank battalion. And it takes 5 men to operate the tank, and you need the driver, the assistant driver, the gunman, the ammunition loader, and the lieutenant crew chief. And Grandpa actually became the driver. And when I asked him what it was like to drive the tank, he just smiled at me and he said he liked it. And there was a bulletproof lens about this big that you could see out of. And there was also a tracer bullet, and that's a bullet with a little flashing light on the back that would show where your live ammunition would be fired at. And after all of his training was complete, he was shipped overseas to Japan, and his headquarters was in Osaka. And there was a room that they slept in called the barracks, and that had bunk beds on each side of the room. And the foods they had to eat were all powdered foods, and he said that was one of the worst parts, was the powdered foods. And they used Japanese steam engines to take hot baths. And they also had to rotate job duties, and some of these were cooking duty and guard duty normally lasted overnight. And the members of the tank battalion, their job was to go into areas to destroy Japanese equipment and to force people out. And he said there was a military vehicle with a 40mm gun on it, and the people that ran that, they would come and tell the tank battalion where they had to go next, which areas they had to cover, and where the equipment was at. And after destroying the equipment and forcing the people out, a specialized unit would come in and take over, and that unit was actually the Green Beret of Australia. And while Grandpa was battling overseas, Grandma was stuck home, and she was actually still in high school. And she said that it was just terribly lonesome, and she was worried all the time. And she kept waiting for that knock at the door saying that he wasn't coming home. And she'd actually seen it happen to several of her neighbors, you know. And she said she just tried to stay busy, and she made clothes to send overseas, and it was just a waiting game. But there were movies that you could go and watch to keep track of what was happening over there. And so, of course, she went to see those. And she would also receive letters from Grandpa, but a lot of the information would be censored out, like his location or what he was doing. And she recalled one letter where everything was blanked out, the whole letter, except for at the bottom he said, "I love you," and that was it. That's all she got. And she couldn't wait to hear that he was coming home again. And when he was finally able to come home again, they put him on a cargo ship, and he said on the way home, a typhoon hit their ship, and the ship went up about 40, 50 feet in the air and then just dropped down. And he said all they could do was just hold on. And when they finally made it home, he was in Seattle, Washington, and he said the first thing he did was go in a convenience store and buy some good American milk. And then he called Grandma and went home. And they eventually got married and had 4 kids. And he said that war is not a great thing, and he only did what any other man would have done. And he just hopes that the good Lord will forgive him, but I know he will. And I'm so proud of my grandpa. I'm so proud to know that he protected his country and preserved some of the freedoms that we have today. And I'm so happy that he was able to come home to Grandma and make this beautiful life that they've made. And he's helped to make our world and our home a better place to live. So thank you, Grandpa.